Going for two live, it's your boy here, Dan, at the B League Says, coming at you with another pick and prop show. For going for two live, I am here to talk about the Monday night slate. We have a double header. We got two games Monday night. I can't believe they have decided to put a game on a Monday night at 10 p.m. Now, it's all good if you're on that West Coast, East Coast dads over here. We ain't happening. It's not happening 10 o'clock at night on a Monday night. What are you doing? Get out of here. Not a chance in hell am I staying up for that. I don't care who's playing. Not a goddamn chance. But we're going to talk about some props for it anyway. Might watch the highlights another time. It ain't happening otherwise. But we've got Monday Night Football doubleheader. Before I get into that, this is Going for Two Live. I am Dan. I am at the B League Says. You can find me wherever. You can find me on our Discord. It's free. It's free. It's free. Freaking tastic over there. You can get waiver wire advice, dynasty advice, fab advice, betting advice, whatever you need. Come find us, come tag us, ask your questions, and kick on from there. You can also use a promo code. This is the Underdog Props I'm using, the Underdog Fantasy promo code GF2 for 100% matching deposit up to $1,000 on your initial outlay. So if you haven't done it, what are you waiting for? $1,000 return in bonus bets. Why the frig would you not? Either way, we're going to talk about the first game. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Minnesota. And we're going to look at one or two props for that game that caught my attention. I feel like it might be onto something. Look, Nick Chubb, I'm very happy for him to get his career back on track. Just not this week. We're going to take the lower on 49.5 rushing yards. Look, more power to the steady bet. Had a solid week one opener, to be fair. He really was the only one that you really want. I don't think we're going to dabble into Woody Marks or Dario Ogunbowale or Damian Pierce too much now. It's really Nick Chubb until if and or when, or really if Joe Mixon ever comes back. He had a pretty good opener against the Rams. He cracked them for 13 and 60, like 60 rush yards, 30 attempts. That's not too bad. I was more impressed with the Bucks slowing all the Falcons down, though. I was really more impressed with that. They really did well. So, you know, they if you look at how the Bucks really moved and they did that, they really did slow everything down. And, you know, they kept Bijan and Algier down below 48 rushing yards total. They did get whipped for, 6 for 100 rec yards. So if you're feeling spicy, Chubb, whose rec line is, half? He's got half a rec line, so, they did allow, 48 rushing yards, against the Falcons in week one, but 100 receiving yards, and they've got Nick Chubb down there for half a rec yard. So really, if he catches the ball and fall forward, that might be it. 49.5 against the team that really, the Vikings really, they really kept it quiet. The Bucks. Sorry, I'm looking at the Vikings name. The Bucks really kept the Falcons quiet in week one. So I don't know if he's going to have that much of sort of a luck on his side, but he might be able to catch the ball and fall forward, and that might get you over the line if you're looking for a Nick Chubb prop. Prop number 2, we're going to go Dalton Schultz. We're going to go lower than 35.5 receiving yards. Look, I don't necessarily hate this line here, or the 3.5 receptions given for this specific matchup. I just think that he was a direct beneficiary of a team that lost Christian Kirk late, struggled in the run game, and didn't trust any other receiver on the park. Now, I'm not saying that can't manifest again this week, and that's why I don't necessarily hate the lines. But I do feel like he did get those cheap touches, and I think he had 1 for 30 or whatever it was. He had 1 reception for 30 yards. So it's not like he specifically did great and did some consistent things. He kind of asked about and got lucky on one play. So I believe this has gone up as a reliable option. He had 20 yards with 1 reception. It was 1 for 20, had 4 targets. I'm losing my mind. I feel like they've given him up a little bit more, just for the moment, because they really don't know much more about the Texans' passing offense. It wasn't really Xavier Hutchinson. It wasn't really Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel. It wasn't really anyone other than him, and they didn't really have much going on. Their team actually looks terrible. But at the moment, I feel like they're going to put those prices up, because if you don't, everyone's just going to hit overs on them, and that's what really they have. Look, for what it's worth, the Bucks got hit for 7 for 59 from Kyle Pitts. Now, Dalton Schultz is not Kyle Pitts, not athletically, not now, not ever. And neither what Pitts did was that amazing. He kind of had some chunk plays here or there. And I'm not saying Schultz isn't capable of it, but look, that Pat Staten last week gave Schultz a line higher trajectory, and I just don't see him being capable of it against a team that's probably going to tighten the screws a little bit more. Pick number 3, we're going to look at Geno Smith. We're going to talk about game number 2. It's going to be the Chargers at Raiders. Geno Smith, we're going to go lower than 247.5. I'm not exactly sure if Brock Bowers is out, but I'm not overly thrilled of him being doubtful all week, so I'd probably be surprised if he plays Monday night. He's got an extra day up his sleeve, being a Monday night game at home. I haven't seen the news that he's out, but for what it's worth, even if he is in, how effective can he be with a bung PCL? I don't really know. Either way, that puts a bunch of problems on Jacoby Myers and some, they're good receivers. They're young, like Trey Tucker's young, Dante Thornton, Jack Beck. They're in their second game. How much do you really want to expect out of them? And you need Genty to open up hard versus one of the better run Ds. I'm going to talk about Genty in a minute. In the Chargers, who kept the Chiefs under 41 rushing yards in week 1. So I'm not saying that Geno Smith can't do it with this group of receivers. He had nearly 400, he had 365 yards against the Pats on the road. I spoke about the Pats on the Sunday show. I'm not saying Smith can't do it, but look, he's only really played them once before with Seattle, struggled for 220 yards, 247 without his best option in Brock Bowers. It's hard to see him do it, I think. Pick number 4, and we're going to give you a double header, which is almost like a triple header. Don't ask me how or why. That's not the point. Not now, not whatever. We're going to look at the rookie running backs here. We're going to go Omarion Hampton. I'm actually going to hate touchdown props, but I think he might be on for a touchdown this week. And Ashton Genty higher than 3.5 receptions and or 20.5 receiving yards. I actually like Genty in the receiving game this week for some reason. I don't know why. Let's talk about Omarion Hampton. Really, we should be looking at the receiving game too. I'll get to that. That's not the point. Look, let's keep it nice and simple. The Pats last week had some, not much success. We saw they were about to get one rushing touchdown, or to the running backs anyway. More importantly, I think what we're going to look at is what less is more, and less is Najee Harris. Look, he wasn't even to be there. Omarion Hampton had 90% of the Chargers touches, 95% of the Chargers rushing back touches in week 1. It's full dominance of his backfield in that regard. And, they had a pretty good week against the Chiefs in week 1, and who are normally, to be fair, even if you get 40, 45, 50 yards, the Chiefs' run defense is generally, forget the Super Bowl, elite. So that rush defense is hard to get past. So he had a pretty decent day for me, in my opinion, for what it was. And I think, the Raiders are an improved side, and I don't think they'll be able to stop the Chargers from moving the ball downfield. I like the opportunity it presents for Hampton to get his maiden score for the Chargers in that regard. I think he's going to get down there for a bit. Look, and the Chargers also, you got to look at it this way, the Raiders, they gave up 10 targets to running backs in week 1. I think this might be the way he gets home. I think he's going to get a receiving touchdown. I hate saying that because it's very hard to pick, but I think you might be on for one if you were trying to get a little bit more obscure with that. And again, Ashton Genty, I'm a little bit more bullish on considering what may or may not happen with Brock Bowers. So really, this is a show of good faith in him in the receiving game. Look, he had 2 for 2, I think, in the receiving game in week 1 against the Pats. And how much he had to be used in the receiving game against New England, they kind of ran away with it and beat him up a fair bit. I don't think they ever looked out of control of that game, in my opinion. But, considering Bowers is out, and we look at where the Chiefs had difficulty, they really held the Chargers intact. And I feel similarly to Hampton with the receiving, that may be the way that Genty gets home as well, which is really weird. I don't like ever saying 2 running backs are going to score receiving touchdowns this week, because it rarely ever happens. So, the idea, they gave up 6 receptions or 6 targets in week 1 to running backs. I feel like that might be a way. That was the Chargers, sorry. Add to it the removal of Bowers. That might tick him up a bunch too. He might get 3-4 targets in that game, and that might be a way he gets home. And, again, breaks one away. We saw what happened with Bijan Robinson week 1. All it takes is 1 reception. Those sorts of running backs, like Genty, like Robinson, they are gone. So, I feel like this is where he might be able to be a bit more of what we think he was, and why he was a Dynasty 101 in that regard. So I think these 2 running backs playing against each other, 2 first-round picks at running back, I feel like this is the way that they're going to look. They're going to look really good this week, I believe. Easy day with this. Monday Night Football. It's an easy show, really, when you think about it. But we're going to talk about one more time. I'm going to wrap this up nice and quickly. These prop bets for Monday Night Football. We're going to talk about the Bucs at Vikings and Chargers at Raiders. Actually, absolutely no Vikings talk. I kind of mentioned them before with Aaron Jones before. I think he's going to go under, but anyway, as it would be. Nick Chubb lower than 49.5 rush yards in week 2 on the road against the Vikes. Pick 2, we're going to go Dalton Schultz live than 35.5 receiving yards. Pick number 3, Geno Smith lower than a lot of lowers in this one. Lower than 247.5 passing yards. Pick 4, it's really a triple header. We like Omarion Hampton for a touchdown, and I like Ashton Genty for higher than 2.5 receptions and or 20.5 receiving yards. I feel like that's quite. You can even keep that up to 3.5 receptions. I feel pretty good about that. I think he's going to have a big game this week. I am Dan. I am at the B League Says on behalf of Going for 2 Live. You can come and find us over on our free Discord. Ask us whatever questions you have over there. Any one of the analysts, just tag us in that. Ask about. You can also use promo code GF2 at Underdog Fantasy. Promo code GF2 for a 100% matching deposit up to $1,000 on your initial outlay. It is nice and easy does it. Thanks for joining me this week. If you have any questions, please, as always, find me over in our Discord. I'd love to have a chat to you over there. Thanks very